Imagine the year 600 BC. Babylon stands as the mightiest city on the planet, crammed with perhaps 200,000 souls behind enormous walls that extend for miles. King Nebuchadnezzar II governs a vast realm stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. The Ishtar Gate shines with its vibrant blue-glazed tiles, while the ziggurat dedicated to Marduk looms above everything, and the hanging gardens might just tumble in lush terraced greenery somewhere nearby. Yet, what would a typical day feel like here? Not for royalty or clergy, but for an everyday citizen threading through Mesopotamia's grandest urban sprawl. Transport yourself 2,600 years into the past. Dawn breaks. The sun climbs over the vast Mesopotamian plain, and the city stirs to life. You find yourself by the Euphrates River, slicing right through Babylon's heart. This waterway defines existence. It supplies drinking water, enables commerce, shields against invaders, and embodies the divine. It's early Nisanu now, the Babylonian calendar's opening month, when spring blooms and the barley crop approaches. Out on the river, fishermen maneuver in small, round reed vessels known as kufas, sealed watertight with bitumen. They resemble drifting baskets but have proven reliable for millennia. They're hauling in carp and catfish, destined for market stalls by noon, or preserved through drying and salting for future use. Women make their way to the bank, balancing clay pots on their heads. Every bit of water must be hauled manually. No Roman-style aqueducts or fancy inner-city channels exist. It's just the murky, sediment-laden Euphrates rushing southward to the Persian Gulf. Farmers trickle out toward the fields beyond the walls, tending barley and wheat that underpin daily survival, alongside date palms for fruit, sesame for cooking oil, and staples like onions and garlic, all thriving thanks to careful irrigation. Mesopotamia, land between the rivers, relies on the Tigris and Euphrates. But these flows defy prediction. Unlike Egypt's steady Nile inundations, excess flooding can submerge crops. Scarcity brings famine. To tame them, Babylonians engineered a complex web of canals, embankments, and levees, demanding relentless upkeep. Neglect it, and chaos ensues. For the moment, though, the waters obey, and Babylon awakens fully as the sun clears the horizon. You set off toward the Ishtar Gate, the primary portal to the inner precinct, a structure without equal, soaring 60 feet and sheathed in deep, lustrous blue-glazed bricks. Processions of sculpted lions, bulls, and dragons march across its face in bold relief, accented by yellow and white hues against that striking azure backdrop. Far more than an entryway, it declares Babylon's supremacy, welcoming all who approach. You proceed down the processional way, a broad avenue running from the gate to the temple district, surfaced in limestone and ruddy breccia. Flanking walls boast additional enameled lion figures. Come the Akitu New Year rites, priests will parade Marduk's sacred image precisely along this route, with throngs of citizens crowding the sidelines to honor cosmic rebirth. But this is just another routine morning. Passing the gate, guards inspect you, ensuring no arms are concealed. The core city counts as holy ground. Once through, the clamor engulfs you at once. Welcome to the bustling trade quarter, alive with vendors from distant lands, Persians, Egyptians, Greeks, Arabs, Indians. Positioned at the nexus of ancient trade paths, Babylon draws roots from every direction. A babel of tongues fills the air, Akkadian in local use, Aramaic gaining ground alongside Persian, Greek, and Egyptian. Market booths overflow with goods, Anatolian copper, Afghan tin, Persian lapis lazuli, Arabian frankincense, Lebanese cedar. Devoid of local stone, metals, or wood, the city compensates as an agrarian giant, shipping out huge quantities of grain, dates, and woven fabrics. Mastery over these commerce lines fills its coffers, As mid-morning arrives, you reach a scribe's workspace close to the bazaar. Time for a formal document, a loan pact. You're securing barley to sow your plot, promising repayment post-harvest plus interest. The scribe perches cross-legged, molding a damp clay tablet. With a reed stylus, he incises cuneiform wedges into its surface. Cuneiform, the wedge-like script, has been a staple in Mesopotamia for more than 2 millennia. Though Babylon didn't originate it, the city has refined it to a fine art. The scribe inscribes your name, the lender's identity, the quantity of barley, the interest terms, and the due date for repayment. Next, he impresses a cylinder seal onto the clay. A compact stone cylinder etched with a distinctive pattern. As it rolls over the damp surface, it imprints a mark that serves as your signature. Your seal is officially documented. Should you violate the agreement, it's unmistakable to all. The tablet bakes under the sunlight before being stored in an archive. Countless such tablets survive today, covering business deals, marital pacts, real estate transactions, and courtroom battles. The Babylonians record every detail. You compensate the scribe with silver pieces. No coins exist yet. These fragments are weighed precisely on scales. Measurement defines life in Babylon: mass, capacity, duration. The people here prize exactness above all. They've segmented the day into 12 double hours, each hour into 60 minutes, and every minute into 60 seconds. A framework we rely on even now. Come midday, you're strolling through sections of the palace grounds. Looming over the adobe structures are terraced gardens, lush with foliage tumbling in cascades. These are the famed hanging gardens of Babylon, counted among the ancient world's 7 wonders, though perhaps they were never real. No local records from Babylon describe them, and digs have uncovered no traces. Accounts stem solely from Greek authors long after the fact. Certain scholars dismiss them as legend, while others propose they stood in Nineveh instead. Still, imagine they were there. Enormous stone platforms stacked high, with trees and blooms draping the rims, vines dangling freely. Streams pour from the summit, nourishing every layer and forging a verdant haven amid the parched urban sprawl. What raised the water so high? Possibly a slave-operated screw mechanism, or perhaps a rope of pails hauled by beasts. Legend credits Nebuchadnezzar II with erecting them for his Median princess wife, who longed for her verdant mountain origins. A monarch striving to summon Eden for his wistful spouse. Real or not? The concept reveals Babylon's essence, a place that tames the wild, channels rivers through arid wastes, erects peaks on level plains. A metropolis proclaiming human ingenuity, knows no bounds. In the afternoon, you find yourself at the foot of Etemenanke, Marduk's ziggurat, the sacred pyramid piercing the sky. It ascends in 7 receding stages, built of mud bricks sheathed in baked ones, possibly reaching 300 feet. The Greeks would dub it the Tower of Babel centuries on, the edifice mortals raised to grasp the divine, prompting divine dispersal and linguistic chaos. Yet, for Babylonians it embodies piety, not arrogance. Here, celestial and terrestrial realms converge, where deities descend to speak with mortals. The summit holds a modest sanctuary, accessible only to the chief priest. Annually, at the New Year rites, he lingers overnight, awaiting Marduk's presence. At present, clergy perform the midday ceremonies. They won't climb to the peak, that's sacred ground, but they present gifts on the tiers below: sheep, loaves, ale, figs, and unguents. Marduk reigns as Babylon's guardian deity, elevated from obscurity to sovereign of the pantheon. The locals recount an epic tale. In primordial times, as the cosmos stirred, the gods clashed in a grand struggle. Tiamat, the primordial serpent of disorder, sought to unravel all creation. The rising Marduk vanquished her, cleaving her form to fashion the sky from one portion and the ground from the rest. In gratitude, the gods crowned him ruler, and founded Babylon as his terrestrial seat. Each ceremony, tribute, and invocation upholds this universal harmony. Marduk wards off anarchy. Babylon endures as the world's axis. Neglect the rites, irk the gods, and calamity ensues. The priests approach their duties with utmost gravity. As dusk falls, you're perched on a roof, adjacent to the ziggurat. Not you alone, since common folk lack such learning, but envision observing the clerics. They scrutinize the heavens. Babylonian priests lead the world in celestial observation, charting solar, lunar, and planetary orbits across generations. They've outlined the zodiac, traced Venus's, Mars's, Jupiter's, Saturn's, and Mercury's trajectories, and even forecast eclipses of the moon. They monitor planetary rhythms. For what purpose? The stars convey godly omens. In Babylon, stargazing merges seamlessly with divination. Shifts in the skies influence earthly affairs. A moon's darkening could foretell peril for the king. Venus's untimely rise might herald conflict. Jupiter's alignment sways the yield of crops. Priests keep a vigilant eye on the heavens, meticulously documenting every detail on clay tablets. They develop intricate mathematical systems to forecast the paths of planets. Remarkably, certain forecasts hit the mark within a single day across extended periods. Far from mere folklore, this represents advanced math dedicated to sacred skywatching. The Greeks would draw knowledge from these methods, as would the Persians, Indians, and Arabs. Today's astronomy traces its roots to those Babylonian rooftops, where priests gazed upward and etched computations into clay. As evening descends, you make your way back to your modest dwelling. Its walls are crafted from mud bricks, topped by a flat roof ideal for sleeping during sweltering evenings. The layout features a handful of spaces encircling a private inner yard. No openings look out to the thoroughfare, all face inward for seclusion and safety. Within, your wife oversees daily affairs, baking loaves, spinning fabrics, and tending to the young ones. Babylonian women enjoy certain freedoms. They may hold assets, operate ventures, or even seek separation. Yet society expects them to focus on domestic duties and bearing heirs. Your offspring frolic in the yard, lads and lasses mingling freely until maturity pulls them toward distinct paths. Should finances allow, a boy could attend an eduba, mastering cuneiform script to pursue roles as a copyist or cleric. Yet for the majority, skills come from observing family trades. Offspring of tillers turn to the soil, those of artisans follow in crafting vessels. The evening meal stays basic: barley loaves, hearty ale, brimming with sustenance. Perhaps a bit of fish, alongside leeks or bulbs, plus dates to add a touch of sugar. Affluence might bring lamb or kid to the table, though ordinary folk savor such rarities, mainly during celebrations. The elite dwell in stark contrast, sprawling abodes with ample chambers, attendants handling every chore, exotic vintages supplanting everyday brew. Still, across all strata, barley flatbreads and ale form the bedrock of existence. Post-meal, you could share tales of divine exploits, the quest of Gilgamesh for eternal life, ending in defeat, or the deluge unleashed by deities, spared for one soul, Utnapishtim, via a crafted vessel. These narratives span millennia in retelling and will echo on, even after Babylon's decline. As midnight approaches, the urban hum fades. Absent are lamps along paths or nocturnal commerce, only shadows and constellations above. Faint barks from hounds, sporadic murmurs, the far-off murmur of the Euphrates reach your ears. Journeys cease with dusk. Perils lurk in obscurity. Feral beasts, robbers, spectral foes. Babylonians hold firm to notions of fiends, wicked entities behind ailments, misfortune, demise. Safeguards include charms, tiny terracotta idols interred at doorways, spells inscribed on plaques and displayed indoors. You invoke guardian deities, Shamash, solar arbiter of equity, Ishtar, deity of passion and conflict. Grand figures like Marduk belong to shrines and rulers, everyday protectors and familiars, suit folk such as yourself. You trust, they heed your pleas. You wish for fulfillment of your pact, bountiful yields, thriving young. Infant loss cuts deep, perhaps a third perish before their 5th year, felled by illness, hunger, mishaps. Existence proves unforgiving, yet you embrace its ways. Virtue, obedience to edicts, reverence for the divine might yield favor. Hammurabi's stele, inscribed more than a millennium prior, shapes enduring legal principles. Retribution mirrors the offense, vision for vision, denture for denture. Equity remains severe yet straightforward. All grasp its tenets. Thus unfolds a full day in ancient Babylon. Not merely its famed portals or suspended groves, nor legends and marvels alone, but the authentic pulse. Binding agreements and humble grains, clerics tracking celestials, the river threading life's core. By 600 BC, this metropolis carried antiquity's weight, born over 12 centuries earlier, destined to persist, briefly more, before Persian seizure, Alexandrian seizure, then gradual desertion into decay. Yet then, it stood as the world's nexus, the grandest settlement, wealthiest hub, cradle of numeric, stellar, juridical, and poetic pinnacles, unmatched for ages. From here sprang the hour's 60 beats, the circle's 360 arcs, the septet of days. They bestowed the earliest codified statutes, methodical celestial study, and enduring epics. The Gilgamesh saga, incised in cuneiform on durable clay, predates Homeric verses and biblical tomes, remaining decipherable now, thanks to clay's endurance over fragile scrolls or hides. Myriad such artifacts unearthed from Babylonian and Mesopotamian remnants testify to this legacy. Countless business agreements, healing recipes, stargazing records, romantic verses, courtroom arguments, and classroom drills, all captured in sun-baked clay tablets, safeguarding a whole society from the past. Though the city of Babylon has largely vanished, its legacy endures. The Grand Ishtar Gate was unearthed and rebuilt inside a museum in Berlin, while the ziggurat stands as mere rubble in Iraq. Yet the concepts live on. Their calculations, celestial knowledge, codes of justice, and tales. Whenever you glance at the clock and note 60 minutes per hour, that's Babylonian math at work. And when you encounter the tale of Noah's deluge, it resonates from the ancient Gilgamesh saga. Babylon crumbled, but the foundations it laid continue to influence our worldview.